So I first noticed at the beginning of November last year, things in my right eye, some flashes on the inside of the eye and floaters. And yes, I've seen floaters before. I've actually had issues with flashes, posterior vitreous detachment, and that's on the outside of the eye, but this was on the inside of my right eye, and it did seem to be getting worse. So on November 11th, I went to an optometrist in Southwest Florida and had them check my eye. I told them I had an issue with flashes and floaters, and once they took a look inside, they said, you have an issue. There's something wrong with your retina. It's serious, and they actually referred me directly to an eye clinic about a 3-hour drive away that had a 24/7 eye emergency room. So I immediately headed there. I was told that it could require surgery, and at that point I actually canceled some work that I had booked domestically, and I had I think 2 weeks of cruises that I knew if they were going to address this, that it was 4 days before that was to start. This was not likely to be something I could do. And when I got there, the doctors, I had 3 different doctors look at me, and they all said, ooh, and consulted with each other, and they said, yes, you do have a problem. It looks like a lesion, possibly a tumor. That's the first time I heard the word tumor. And immediately booked me on with their top oncologist for as soon as they could. And that was the 16th of November. And great doctors there. I really have had amazing care for, well, ever since this whole process started. But then she did tell me that after examining me using ultrasound, and this sort of is an aside, that I had very sensitive eyes growing up. I didn't like wearing contacts, anything that got in my eye. I soon got over that feeling when they spent a half hour with an ultrasound wand with gel on it going around. Yeah, they numbed it. They also checked my left eye, which is the eye that I'm using to see now, and found that there is a spot on that as well. So it was always my weaker eye. And I didn't realize how bad the vision in that eye was until I couldn't use my dominant eye. And that was soon to come. But I can see out of the eye, and it's corrected quite well of my left eye. But what happened with my right eye at that point was, yes, they scheduled me for surgery as soon as possible. I had to do some tests they did because she knew it was cancer and most likely malignant. She told me that she said, I'll know exactly when we do the biopsy. I was given a choice, and the outcomes were identical, whether they take the eye out completely or they use radiation, and that's what I chose to do. And their recommendations said that was, there was no difference in what the outcome would be because, yes, the cancer's already here, but there's a possibility of saving vision in the eye. And I can actually show it to you. So you can see it still provides me a little bit of vision, and I'll have more to say about that later. But the decision, and I don't regret that, was made that I would be going into surgery. They have 2 surgeries in the eye, and the procedure is to cut around the outside of the eye, between the eye and the eyelid, and then pull the eye out a bit and rotate it, and then place behind the tumor, behind the back of the eye wall, a radiated disc and kill the tumor with radiation. And they took very exact readings. They made a disc which was backed with gold, and I had that surgery on the 6th of December. And to me, I'm always interested in learning things. If I don't know the answer, I will try and find the answer, and I'm always looking things up. I'm trained in history. I know how to do research, and to me, my mantra is ignorance is curable. If you don't know something, you can find out. So I did quite a bit of research on this, and but the whole process was fascinating. How they proceeded when I got there on the 6th of December, I walked into the hospital, and they quickly got me out of my clothes, came in, gave me a shot first, and they then put a nerve block on the side of my head and just sedated me. So I was not unconscious. During this procedure, in fact, I could speak with the doctors. And there was a doctor and 2 interns. And I've heard the whole process, and they're going through it. There was a time when they actually had to reposition the disc, and they checked with an ultrasound after they put it in, and they said, no, we need to go move it a little bit. There's some connective tissue between it and the back of the eye. And then when they did the biopsy, and each of the 2 students, fellows, that the head doctor was instructing, took a turn taking out a biopsy, which they went in through the white of the eye, and I could actually see it coming in. And then took a sample, and that happened 3 times. Again, no pain. To me, it was fascinating, and I didn't feel much pain or discomfort until later that evening. And it was from then I returned to a room that I shared with another gentleman who had had the same procedure about a half hour before me, and pretty much had to lie sort of with my back and head a bit upright. I could maneuver a little bit, raise and lower my back, raise and lower my legs, really comfortable bed. I had a television. I had my cell phone. I was able to communicate and call friends and connect with them, text them. And my parents were there, but people could not come closer than about 10 feet from me because radiation was shooting out of my eye. And I actually was wearing glasses much darker than this. They're dark leaded glasses, and which prevented some of the radiation. But the guy would come in the room and check me with a Geiger counter, and as he got closer, it kept clicking louder, and they came in once a day to do that, and my parents had to sit across from me when they came to visit, and it was actually, this is the first time I had been hospitalized, first operation I'd had since I was a child when I had my tonsils removed. And it was an interesting experience. It was my first time overnight in the hospital, but it was just really great care. And then the same similar operation, they didn't have to do as much cutting because they hadn't attached it completely. They'd attached it enough, but then they did a little. They pulled the eye out again, rotated a bit, went in and pulled out that radiated disc, and then tacked me up, and upon eating lunch and holding that down and feeling okay, again I felt no pain because they put a nerve blocker in, which wore off about 12 hours later, and I rode home 2 hours to the west coast of Florida. And yeah, the recovery was interesting. It was, again, I had some, the only thing I took was Tylenol with codeine, and I was only taking one of those, and then I just went to straight Tylenol. I had to put antibiotic drops and antibiotic salve in my eye numerous times a day and change the dressing and kept a bandage over the eye, and that was basically, I couldn't really do a lot. So one of the things I was told would happen was that the retina that had the tumor between it and the eye wall, and the retina was bulging, that was causing a lot of the flashing that I saw. But over time, not only did it kill the tumor, but it would kill the retina as well, where the retina was radiated, and that's something that has come to pass. I quickly, though, began walking and trying to regain my strength. I was eating well, and it took a while to get back in. It took me about a month to get my strength back and my energy back. By the 21st of December, I'd gone back in to see them, and they looked at the eye and they said, yes, everything looks good, everything's progressing well. And I got the okay to return back to work. I'd canceled another 20 days worth of work in December of 2022, but I had a contract beginning on the 4th of January for 2.5 months working on a ship in the Caribbean. And that is what I was allowed to do. And for the first 2 weeks I was back on the ship, it was, I took things easy. I really didn't get off the ship, but it was easy to get around. Everything on board the ship is set up for people with limited vision. And that is one of the biggest things that I noticed was I have no depth perception. I have also no peripheral vision beyond about, right about here. I can't see anything from here to here. Oh, there it is. And adjusting to that takes time. But the 21st of December, I also found out the results from the biopsy. And that was about as bad as it could be. There were 3 groups, 1A and 1B, for malignant melanoma, which is what I have, and group 2. This is a rare type of melanoma, maybe 3% of melanoma, and most of it's skin-related, and the group 1A and 1B, after 5 years, there's only about a 10 to 15% chance of it metastasizing in my liver. For the group I was in, group 2, the risk is 75% likely to metastasize in my liver within 5 years. And then they also did a blood test that showed antigens in my blood, which would accelerate that process. And this was the bad news that I got that day. The good news was that I could go back to work. And that's something that I really looked forward to doing.